So, hey there, night owls and exhausted parents. Listen, I have been there, but welcome back to our channel. I'm Dr. Funke Afolabi Brown. I am the founder of Restful Sleep MD and the host of the Restful Sleep Show. And this topic today is all too familiar for many of us, and it's the mysterious world of childhood insomnia. So, have you ever wondered why your little one seems to outlast even the most energetic cartoon character? Think Energizer Bernie, right? Well, stick around because what we're really going to be talking about today is actually unraveling the secrets behind childhood insomnia. It is actually not a secret, it's just that it is so sneaky because of all these causes and all the effects, which seem to be so subtle. These kids are so cute. And before you know it, they're in bed with you and they need you all night long, right? So in this video, my goal is to help transform those bedtime struggles into peaceful dreams. So grab your cup of coffee or your favorite beverage, and then let's really start to talk about how to get your little one the sleep they need. So let's jump in. Now, to start with, I think the first question we have to ask ourselves is, what is childhood insomnia? It's really important that we understand what it is and what it is not, because when we understand that, then we really know what we should be addressing. We really know how we move forward. So it goes beyond just the occasional night of restless sleep, right? My child didn't sleep well, they're cranky, that's fine. But it's when you have these perpetual persistent difficulties with falling asleep, with staying asleep, or they're waking up too early. And so now, while sleep problems we know are quite common in children, chronic insomnia can actually lead to a lot of problems that then will affect their growth, affect their development, affect their mood. So these are things that are really important for us to tackle earlier rather than later. So we've talked about the what, right? So now, what causes childhood insomnia? Childhood insomnia can come from various factors. This can include, just like in adults as well, right? It can include things like anxiety, it can be, stress. It can be disruptions in their routine. It could be related to behavioral things like excessive screen time before bed or dietary habits or even medical conditions. Think things like sleep apnea or restless leg syndrome or restless sleep disorder. And sometimes even in children with autism, ADHD, all these conditions can trigger insomnia and make things even worse. Now, there's sort of a group, right, that helps classify sleep disorders, and they're called the International Classification of Sleep Disorders, and they help to sort of categorize insomnia into different categories. So for kids, for the sake of this talk, there's sleep onset association insomnia, there is limit setting insomnia, and there's what we call psychophysiologic insomnia. So I'm going to talk a little bit later about these different types. But regardless of what the cause of the insomnia is, the effects are far reaching. It's poor sleep that affects their cognition or their learning. It affects their school performance. It affects their behavior, their emotional well being, and also has been shown to actually affect their health as well. Kids can actually get sicker when they have sleep issues. And lack of sleep can eventually lead to a lot of irritability, those mood swings. They can have difficulties with concentration, and overall, just the quality of life, both for the child and for the entire household, is affected. So, how do we then identify insomnia, right? Like I said, it's not just about one or two sleepless nights, it's about persistent difficulties with sleep. So, questions to ask: is your child having difficulties falling asleep? Are they waking up frequently in the middle of the night? Are they waking up unusually early? And then what's their daytime like? Are they sleepy during the day? Do they seem to have fatigue? All these things can be indicators of sleep troubles. Now, for some children, they may not actually be sleepy, they may be hyperactive. So if you start to notice that behavioral issues are coming up, they're super on the go, they seem more overtired, that may be a sign that something is going on. So now, how do we address sleep issues in children with insomnia. The first thing I think we need to do is that address the basics. Let's talk about establishing healthy sleep patterns. Let's make sure that we're following those consistent bedtime routines. And if you follow the Restful Sleep MD show, you will see that I've created a lot of content around this. Let's make sure the bedtime environment is conducive. Let's limit screen time about 60 minutes before bed and make sure that they're engaging in physical activities during the day. Now, all these will contribute to better sleep. But unfortunately, if you have a child that actually has insomnia, just those healthy sleep habits or sleep hygiene may not be enough. You may need to take specific steps to address their insomnia. And this will depend on what the cause is. So I talked about sleep onset association before. And this is something that's really common among young children. And the issue is that they need a parent to be present for them to go asleep. So they have a very hard time falling asleep, or they wake up in the middle of the night and they need a parent to be back in bed with them. It may be that they need a bottle. They may need a bottle to go asleep. They may need certain things. And whatever that is what they need to fall back asleep. So to treat this, what you need to do is really work your way out of the bedroom to establish sleep independence in your child. And one of the things that I recommend is what we call the gradual method. Some people call it graduated extinction. That's actually it's called in our sleep literature. But I just like to call it the shift method. And so what does this look like? Really, it looks like sitting with a chair, with your chair either next to your child's bed, as close as they feel comfortable. And then over the next few days, you start to move gradually towards the door. So we're heading towards the door. We're here. You start to go, but you go at a pace that's comfortable for you and your child. Now they're going to protest. They're going to feel that threatened, right? They're going to feel some anxiety. You reassure them. You avoid much conversation. You stay there with them till they fall asleep. And then you make your way out, right? And so this is much easier for most parents than just, some people talk about the Ferber method or the cried out method. This method, the shift method, is actually a lot easier. So now the question is, what happens when they wake up in the middle of the night, right? That's the worst. What I recommend is don't do anything. Just bring them back into bed with you. Whatever it is you do to help them to fall asleep, typically just do that, because we need you to sleep as much as possible. Once they're able to fall asleep independently at bedtime, then you could start to see that those nighttime weekends will decrease. The second is the limit setting type, right? So this is seen in kids who are a little bit on the older, maybe like school age or toddler, and they are just demonstrating delayed tactics. So it's the extra water, extra hug, the list goes on and on. I need to use the bathroom again, right? And so really what these are curtain calls. And to address this, you just want to minimize those curtain calls. You want to minimize all those demands, because the longer it is that we respond to them, we're pushing their bedtime farther and farther, and their sleep is going to be reduced. My all-time favorite to address this is what we call the bedtime pass. What is the bedtime pass? The bedtime pass really is about giving your child a limited number of passes or tokens that they can use at bedtime, right? So usually one or two, that's it. And so they trade that pass with a request, okay? And the idea is that it provides them with some sense of control, right? And autonomy, but you're still setting those healthy boundaries and those healthy limits, right? And you're still maintaining those boundaries. And they're also still maintaining structure. So once you hand those passes to them, they want an extra hug. Okay, you give me you've already completed your bedtime routine, right? So you want another hug. Okay, we're going to take one pass, right? You want another trip to the bathroom, another sip of water. They're going to trade those requests. And then once those passes are done, guess what? That's it. There are no more passes. And that's where the rubber really meets the road. That's really where you have to firmly but gently let them know that they've used up their requests, and you stop being like the bad guy, because the requests are done. We only had two requests, right? Now, there's a bonus to this, and this is important that you let them know even ahead of time. And that is that if they don't use up their bedtime passes, guess what? They get it traded for a morning treat. And that treat should be something very simple, something very basic. Or, your favorite cereal, you make breakfast with mommy, something of that sort. Now, the third one, psychophysiologic insomnia. It's when you have this increased state of arousal, very common in teenagers and adolescents, and they report being unable to shut their minds off, similar to that mind racing we get even as parents. And this can go for hours and hours and hours. And eventually, before we know it, the bed becomes a place of worry. They start to worry before they go to bed. They start to really fret. And that makes it even harder to fall asleep. So the treatment for that is what we call cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia. And this is an evidence-based method that includes components like what we call psychoeducation. So we help them understand what's going on around their sleep. We help them understand what sleep drive means, what their sleep pressure means, what their circadian rhythms look like, helping them understand that empowers them. And then we incorporate behavioral methods like, stimulus control, where we're trying to align their bed with, or they align them with when they're most likely going to go to bed, right? We tend to then minimize excessive time spent in bed. So we use these strategies all the time in adults, and so we can modify it for our teens. And then the final part of CBT, or cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, is the cognitive aspect, because a lot of times our children, our teenagers are in this negative loop of thoughts. And so we address those negative thoughts that are contributing to their sleep troubles. Now, we've talked about a lot of things around insomnia in your child, but it's really, really important, regardless of what the cause is, that if there are underlying medical or psychological conditions that are contributing, if they have anxiety, if they have depression, if they have sleep apnea, if they have restless leg syndrome, if they have circadian rhythm disorders, all these things can actually mimic insomnia. So it's important to address these issues. And this really is where you do need to partner with your doctor, your child's doctor, as well as come to see a sleep specialist who does this as, for their career, really helping their kids. Okay. And so really, really important to get the support you need to help your child sleep better. Because when they get restful sleep, then they thrive, then they reach their fullest potential. Now, if your child is struggling with sleep issues, then the Restful Sleep Place is the place for you. So this is a virtual sleep practice or telemedicine practice that provides sleep services tailored to children and young adults with sleep issues. And so we work together, we design very, very tailored sleep solutions for you and your little or not so little one, so that they can thrive, so that they can start to sleep through the night. So regardless of what their sleep struggles are, we're able to get to the root cause and then move them forward. So how do you make an appointment? Schedule an appointment with us at therestfulsleepplace.com or restfulsleepmd.com. That's therestfulsleepplace.com or restfulsleepmd.com. Now, that's it. We've talked about insomnia in children, and I hope you've gotten some valuable insights. And I would love it if you give me a thumbs up, if you like this video, and then you pay it forward. Share this with those in your community. Share this with a mom whose child may be struggling with sleep issues, because that is how I get the word out there. Because a lot of our kids are struggling with sleep issues. A lot of our parents are struggling with sleep issues. So when you pay this forward, you're helping me to get the word out there. Plus, as soon as new content comes up, you will be the first to know. So I just want to say thank you for hanging out with me today. And until next time, I hope you rest well.